Welcome to part 1 on ending 100 anti-Semitic lies. This will be broken down into pieces for you, released over the next couple of months. The first lie is the lie against the Talmud. The Talmud is an ancient Jewish scripture written almost 2,000 years ago. Well, it was written about 400 to 600 CE, to be more precise. 95% of the time you see references to it by non-Jews. What they're quoting for you is the anti-Semitic forgery that was written in the 1890s called the Talmud Unmasked by an evil priest by the name of Justinus Bonaventure Pranitus. Feel free to reference it if you want. Lies claiming that Jesus was born in filth and all sorts of other lies, that it's okay to lie to non-Jews, all sorts of lies that really aren't even worth your time for me going over. But if you're hearing anything anti-Christian about it, anti-humane, you can pretty much be guaranteed it's coming from the Talmud Unmasked. There were a couple other Talmud forgeries that were written as well too. But this is going to be the biggest one, and it's quoted 95% of the time that you see any kind of negative references to the Talmud. If the Talmud, and I'll prove it to you, if the Talmud was some anti-Christian piece of garbage, why did Pope Leo X order it to be printed in volume and distributed? He was so impressed by it. If it was some anti-Christian piece of garbage, he would have ordered the thing burned. Enough said. The second anti-Semitic lie, we kind of touched on this in the introduction, is that Jews were kicked out of 109 countries. This is the favorite lie of the neo-Nazis to cover up for their own crimes. See, understand the criminal mentality. The criminal thinks they're the victim, and they think the victim is the criminal. So in their mind, the way they justify persecution of Jews is the Jews have to be guilty. Because in the mind of the criminal, they couldn't be hurting innocent people. Otherwise, they couldn't live with themselves for who they are. Never forget that. I actually learned that from a district attorney a long time ago. The way the criminal thinks in their screwed up brain, they think that the criminal is the victim and the victim is the criminal, because otherwise they couldn't live with themselves. So in their mind, they make up the lie of Jews kicked out of 109 countries. Let's talk about that. The only place Jews were kicked out of were Christian and Muslim crap-hole dictatorships for refusing to submit to Jesus or Muhammad. Good for them. Remember, Christianity wasn't always the wonderful, kind religion that it is today. Those Christian countries, up until 100 years ago, were dictatorships, and dictators are criminals. You have to be one to become one, let alone to stay one. But ask the neo-Nazis to explain to you why they and their criminal fascist allies were kicked out of 50 countries in just 12 years for really good reasons, because they're nothing but criminals, terrorists, and psychopaths, unlike Jews who were kicked out for refusing to submit to Jesus or Muhammad. Good for them. The next lie that you'll see from the anti-Semites is the USS Liberty Incident. It was an unfortunate incident of what's known as friendly fire. Between 2 to 20% of all people who are killed during combat are killed by their own side. The U.S. Liberty was the United States surveillance ship that was ordered by the Defense Department to go ahead and patrol the waters and to survey probably Israel. And every country surveys every other one. It's not like that there's some big mystery of the U.S. surveying Israel. Every country surveys everybody else. At any rate, they were ordered to stay 200 miles off the coast of Israel. When they were attacked, they were only 20 miles off. The Israeli plane asked for identification. The U.S. plane's radio system was broke, and when they ended up giving a transponder code, it was the same one that an Egyptian warship had given the day before. Pretty awful that this happened, but this is very typical of incidents of friendly fire. It's usually not one thing, it's multiple things. And keep in mind, the people who push this conspiracy hallucination can never explain to you why the Liberty was only 18 miles off the coast of Israel when attacked, when it was supposed to be 200 miles off the coast. Now they will tell you that, well, the Liberty unfolded an American flag. Oh, as if anybody can't unfold an American flag. And how in the world are you supposed to see that as a plane doing a strafing run at 600 miles an hour from 2,000 feet? Pretty much next to impossible. The fact that they have to go back 50 years to come up with this is so laughable. To tell you how bad friendly fire incidents are, you could Google U.S. friendly fire and you will come up with approximately 100 different incidents of U.S. friendly fire just from the Vietnam War forward to today. It is an unfortunate act that happens during a war, and it's why you stay out of a war zone, including the killing of Pat Tillman by American soldiers and including the downing of an Iranian passenger airliner, the USS Vincennes, when all people were killed. This is why you stay out of combat zones. The next thing I want to go over with you is the lie that Israel lives off the U.S. But keep in mind, since Israel actually does far more for the U.S., all you'll hear is, well, Israel must own the U.S. because the anti-Semites, that's all they can do is lie. They have to justify their own inner demons and their own unhappy life by going ahead and taking it out on Jews and Israel. They're such cowards. Remember, you need to be able to turn every one of these lies back on their attacker. And the attackers, for the most part, are always the same criminal ideologies. Communism and socialism, fascism and Islamists. Not all Muslims. Remember, the biggest victim of Islam are other Muslims. Name one contribution from the Muslim world in the last 500 years. Pretty much nothing. And that's because of the Islamists that hold Muslims back. So let's go on to the last of those, that Israel lives off of the United States. This will be our last part that we go over today. The truth is the exact opposite. Yes, the U.S. Israel gets $3.3 billion approximately, more during a wartime like now. But the U.S. gives Israel about $3.3 billion a year. That money is nothing but a subsidy of the U.S. defense industry. 100% of that has to be spent on overpriced U.S. weapons systems. And it really is a payoff to Israel not to put part of the U.S. defense industry out of business. Israel can build better weapons at a cheaper price than the overpriced, bloated U.S. defense industry. And the bottom line is, we can fight the Islamists whose goal is global dominance, taking over the world and turning it into a Sharia trash can. Women with less rights than dogs have in the U.S., the West, and Israel. Gays and LGBT all murdered or thrown in jail. If you're a gay in Gaza, if you're lucky, you'll be thrown off a rooftop. If you're a gay in the Palestinian Authority, well, it's just 10 years in jail. Lucky you. Ha ha. At any rate, it's Israel that is the only country actively fighting the jihadis. Nobody else is doing it. So we can spend billions fighting them in Gaza or trillions waiting till they get to New York City again. It's up to you. Israel's the best insurance policy the U.S. could ever ask for. The intel that Israel gets the U.S., you couldn't buy for $10 billion a year. They are the ones who are residing in the middle of the Middle East, where the terrorists are coming out of. And if they wouldn't be fighting in Gaza, the terrorists, it would be you and me who they'd be having tied up to the back of a pickup truck. In addition to that, the U.S. gets free military bases, free weapons upgrades, free training and tactics, free weapons storage, and no American soldiers died defending Israel. They don't even want American soldiers there. They're too proud. What has America done? Well, take a look at what's actually all the places that American soldiers have actually died. They've died defending Korea. They've died defending Europe. None have died defending the U.S. The United States has also fought 6 wars to free Muslims and never gotten a dime. I'm sorry, and it's cost us trillions of dollars and tens of thousands dead. Compare that to Israel, where not one American soldier has died. There is no comparison. Fight them in Gaza or wait till they get to New York City again. It's up to you. The choice is yours.